Shalom, Chevre. It is I, your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier, and we are still counting the Omer together, including this video right here. It's just 3 more days, but we're not done yet, so let's focus on the work we're here to do. This week, we're talking about Malkhut, the divine attribute I like to think of alignment. The sages say that Malkhut is the emanation of divinity, that light shining from the earthly realm when it is reflective of light shining from the heavenly realm. So the more that what's going on earth reflects the goodness that's coming out of heaven, the greater those two things are in alignment and the stronger this essence of Malkhut. I've shared with you my favorite teaching of the sages from Pirkei Avot on this. We've talked about your Malkhut role model and when you've been successful at this kind of alignment. Today I want to talk about when this alignment has been important in Jewish history. And I want to give you an example that some people might consider a little bit shady. But bear with me because I think it makes an important point. Maybe you've heard of a particular story from Sefer Breshit or the book of Genesis about Yehuda and Tamar. Yehuda, of course, was one of the 12 sons of Yaakov or Jacob, and Tamar was his daughter-in-law. She was actually his daughter-in-law several times. She married his oldest son, and then he died. She married his second oldest son, and then he died. And because of the way things worked back then, she was in line to marry the third son, and he was like, why don't you just sit tight? We're going to wait till he's a little bit older. And she was legitimately concerned that this marriage would never happen. P.S. in her time and place, this was her whole source of financial security, well-being, etc., was having a family to belong to. And Judah, thinking she was some kind of black widow or something, was putting a stop to that security. So Tamar devises a plan, let's say, to get back into the family. She disguises herself as someone else, puts herself in the right place at the right time, yada, yada, yada. The miracle of life occurs, and that miracle is going to be Yehuda's. And here's the thing, when Tamar presents evidence of this situation to Yehuda, he's a rich and powerful guy at this point. He can make this whole situation just go away, if you know what I mean, by making Tamar perhaps go away, say no more. But he doesn't. He figures out what's happened. He figures out not just that he's responsible for this, but he's responsible for the whole situation. He says, I know the power that I have in this situation. I can make all of this go away, but I'm not gonna, because that would be out of integrity with my values. And it's not because he's a perfect person. He's actually among the brothers that cast Joseph, their brother, into the pit that got him taken off into Egypt. And he remembers that. He remembers that he could have done something but didn't, and carried that experience with him to reinforce his values that in this situation, he says, this time I'm going to do the right thing. And he does right by Tamar. He brings her into the family. They raise the child as their own together. And then that kid has kids, and that kid has kids, and down the line to Boaz. Boaz is the guy that marries Ruth in the book of Ruth, and they have kids, and those kids have kids, and down the line to David. And according to our tradition, when David has kids and those kids have kids and yada, 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 Mashiach. And like I said, not for nothing, this story has kind of a shady start. But for me, that's why it's a perfect Malkhut story, because none of us are constantly in alignment. Many of us, if we ever reach that kind of alignment between our real life and that ideals, it's through hard-won experience and several mistakes. But when we do, great things can come out of it. And had Yehuda not brought his life back into alignment, we wouldn't have had all of those descendants, including David, and maybe someday Mashiach. That's a point where Malkhut has been integral to our history and integral to who we are today. So my question for you today is, what's your favorite instance of Malkhut bearing fruit in our history and being important to who we are today? Think about that, put it in our Facebook group, put it in the YouTube comments, write it down in your journal, send me an email, you do you. And don't forget to count day number 47 of the Omer tonight after sundown. Until next time, friends, shalom.